Hey everyone, Nathan here, and welcome back to Tech Talk Central.
And I'm Sarah.
Today we're doing a bit of a head-to-head. A lot of you are probably looking at mid-range soundbars, right?
Yeah, it's a super popular category. So we're pitting the Sony HTS2000 against the Samsung HW-B650.
Two big names, two popular models. Our goal today is pretty simple.
We want to cut through the noise, look at the features, what actual users are saying.
And basically help you figure out which one might be the better fit for your setup, your budget.
Exactly. Give you the info you need, nice and quick.
Okay, let's dive in. Sony first. The HTS2000.
Sounds good. So this is a 3.1 channel soundbar.
Right. 3 front speakers, 1 is center, and the point 1 implies bass capability.
Precisely. And the big headline feature here is probably its support for Dolby Atmos and DTS:X.
Okay, Atmos and DTS:X, that's the object-based surround sound, right? Gives you that height dimension.
That's the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
It aims for a more immersive, sort of three-dimensional sound field. So like rain or helicopters feel like they're actually above you. Even without dedicated upward-firing speakers, how does it manage that?
Well, Sony uses its own processing tech. They call it the vertical surround engine and S-Force PRO front surround.
So it's virtual height. Clever processing to simulate it.
Exactly. It tries to trick your ears, bounce sound waves to create that sense of spaciousness and height.
Interesting. And you mentioned 3.1, so it does have a dedicated center channel.
It does. 3 front speakers total, including that center, which is, really key for dialogue clarity.
Definitely. Muffled dialogue is probably the biggest complaint about standard TV speakers.
For sure. It also has built-in dual subwoofers. So it's trying to handle the bass without needing a separate box immediately.
Built-in subs.
Okay.
But is it expandable? Can you add more later?
Yep, you can. Sony offers optional wireless subwoofers, the SASW3 or the bigger SW5, and also optional wireless rear speakers, the SARS3S, if you want to build out a fuller surround system down the line.
Good to have options. What about connecting it up?
Standard stuff, mostly. USB, optical audio in, but crucially, HDMI EARC out.
EARC. That's important for getting those high-res audio formats like Atmos from the TV, right?
Exactly. Higher bandwidth than regular ARC. Plus, you get Bluetooth for streaming music from your phone or tablet.
And I saw something about integration with Sony TVs.
Yeah, if you have a compatible Sony Bravia TV, there's a feature called Acoustic Center Sync.
What does that do?
It basically lets the TV speakers work alongside the soundbar, potentially making dialogue even clearer, and you can control the soundbar settings right from the TV menu. More seamless integration.
Okay. And there's an app too.
Right, the Sony Home Entertainment Connect app for more control over settings and features.
Okay, so feature-wise, it seems pretty packed. But what are people actually saying? The user reviews.
Generally pretty positive. People often mention good sound quality, especially considering its size and often for smaller rooms.
Easy setup seems to be a common theme too.
Yeah, lots of mentions of easy setup. It's seen as a solid upgrade from TV speakers, particularly if you snag it on sale. Value seems good then.
And dialogue clarity?
Right.
That's center channel.
That gets praised quite a bit. There's a specific voice mode that users say really helps make speech stand out.
Okay, but it can't be all sunshine and rainbows. What are the negatives people bring up?
Well, like with a lot of electronics, there seems to be some inconsistency in reliability. Some units work perfectly, others, not so much. Users have reported units just stopping working.
Oof, that's not ideal. Anything else?
A common gripe is the remote control. It's apparently a bit basic, lacks things like dedicated treble control or a full equalizer.
So you have to dive into the app for finer tuning?
Seems like it. The app apparently has a dimmer setting for the display, which isn't on the remote, for instance.
Okay. And what about those built-in subwoofers? Are they enough?
That's an interesting point from the reviews. One user specifically mentioned that without adding an external Sony sub, the built-in ones could sometimes make the mids sound a bit, muffled, like the bass was overpowering the mids.
So adding the optional sub actually helped balance the overall sound, not just add more bass.
According to that user, yes. It took the load off the main unit for the low frequencies and resulted in a clearer, more balanced sound profile overall. Something to keep in mind.
Definitely noted. Okay, let's switch gears. The Samsung HW-B650.
Right. Also a 3.1 channel setup, so dedicated center speaker here too.
But the surround sound tech is different, isn't it?
It is. This one lists Dolby Digital 5.1 and DTS Virtual.X.
So no Dolby Atmos or the DTS:X equivalent like the Sony. It's more traditional surround and virtual processing.
Pretty much. Dolby Digital 5.1 is the standard channel-based surround, and DTS Virtual.X is Samsung's processing to try and create a wider, more immersive soundstage, including some sense of height, but it's virtual, not object-based like Atmos.
Got it. What are the key features that stand out for the Samsung?
Probably the biggest difference right off the bat. It includes a wireless subwoofer in the box.
Ah, okay, so you don't have to buy one separately if you want that dedicated low-end punch.
Exactly. It also has a specific bass boost feature if you really want to emphasize the rumble.
And, like the Sony, a center speaker for dialogue.
Yep. Plus, Samsung has Adaptive Sound Light, which is supposed to automatically optimize the sound based on what you're watching, enhancing voice clarity.
Any other neat tricks?
It has Bluetooth multi-connection. You can pair two devices at once and switch between them easily, and specific voice enhance and night mode settings.
Night mode is useful, reduces the loud bangs, but keeps dialogue clear.
Right. And similar to Sony's ecosystem play, if you have a compatible Samsung TV, you can use Samsung's One Remote Control to operate the soundbar too.
Okay, so included sub is a big plus. What's the user feedback like on the B650?
Again, generally positive on some key aspects. Clear voices get mentioned a lot, and people often feel it's good value for the money.
Setup easy too.
Seems so. Many users report smooth sailing with installation and Bluetooth pairing.
And the included subwoofer. Does it deliver?
Most people seem pretty happy with it. They find it adds a good amount of bass without being, overly boomy or shaking the whole house. Just a solid improvement.
But are there downsides mentioned here as well?
Yes. Similar themes emerge. Mixed reports on reliability or functionality. Some have great experiences, especially paired with Samsung TVs, while others received units that didn't work correctly or failed.
Seems like quality control might be a bit variable in this price range for both brands, maybe?
It's possible.
Yeah.
There are also some mixed comments specifically about sound quality and volume control on the Samsung. Some found it lacking or had issues with precise volume adjustments. And power issues, like the device not turning on, were noted by a few.
Okay. And what about the bass from that included sub? Everyone happy?
Mostly, but not universally. Some users felt it was a bit underwhelming unless the volume was turned up pretty high. Even with the bass boost and settings maxed out, they wanted more impact.
So it's there, it helps, but maybe not for serious bass heads.
Perhaps. But again, most agree it's a definite step up from TV speakers. Oh, and one user specifically liked that the Samsung remote does have tone control, letting you adjust both bass and treble directly.
Ah, unlike the Sony's basic remote, that's a point for Samsung.
Could be, depending on how much you like to tweak.
All right, let's put them side by side then. Key differences for someone trying to choose. Surround sound first.
Okay, Sony has Dolby Atmos and DTS-X. Samsung has Dolby Digital 5.1 and DTS Virtual.X. If you really want that object-based, potentially more immersive 3D sound with height effects, especially for movies coded in Atmos DTS-X, the Sony has the technical advantage there.
But it relies on virtual processing for the height, remember?
True, but it's processing designed specifically for those formats. The Samsung is processing standard surround formats to feel wider. Subtle, but different goals.
Okay, bass performance. Built in on Sony versus included wireless on Samsung.
Sony's built-in subs are convenient, but user feedback hints you might really want the optional external sub with the best balance and impact. Samsung gives you that separate sub from the start, which most find decent, though some want more oomph. So out-of-the-box bass is likely better with the Samsung.
Dialogue clarity.
Both seem strong here. Dedicated center channels on both, and user reviews generally praise dialogue clarity for both models. Kind of a tie, maybe?
Seems like it. Smart features and TV integration.
Sony potentially integrates a bit deeper with its own Bravia TVs via Acoustic Center Sync and the app. Samsung has the One Remote compatibility with its TVs. So if you own a TV from one of these brands, that ecosystem integration might lean you one way.
Makes sense. Expandability.
Sony seems to push its optional rears and subs a bit more clearly as an upgrade path. You know exactly what models to add. Samsung also supports optional rears, but Sony's path feels maybe a bit more defined for building a bigger system later.
And the elephant in the room?
Price. Generally speaking, the Sony HTS2000 tends to sit at a slightly higher price point than the Samsung HW-B650, so the Samsung also looks like the more budget-friendly choice. Prices fluctuate, of course, but that's the usual positioning.
Okay, so boiling it down, if someone absolutely wants the potential for Dolby Atmos and DTS-X, maybe has a Sony TV, and is okay with potentially adding a sub later for best results.
Then the Sony HTS2000 is probably the one to look closer at.
But if you want a more complete package out of the box with a dedicated sub included, value is a key factor. Maybe you have a Samsung TV and Atmos isn't a must-have.
Then Samsung HW-B650 is a very strong contender. It delivers clear dialogue, and that included bass enhancement at likely a lower cost.
And we should probably reiterate that both have had some user reports about reliability, so checking warranty and return policies is always smart.
Absolutely. Always a good idea with any electronics purchase, really. But yeah, both offer a big step up from TV sound, just with slightly different strengths and priorities.
It's interesting, isn't it, how they approach the same market segment slightly differently. One leaning more on the advanced audio formats, the other on providing that complete package feel with the included sub.
Yeah, it really shows there's no single best for everyone. It depends what you, the listener, value most. Is it the cutting-edge audio format support or the immediate bass impact and potentially a lower price?
Great summary. Hopefully this gives everyone a much clearer picture of these two popular soundbars.
We hope so.
To find the latest prices and deals, definitely check out the links we've put in the description below.
Yeah, prices can change, so those links are your best bet for current info.
And hey, if this deep dive helped you out, we'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel, Tech Talk Central. We do comparisons like this all the time.
More tech insights and breakdowns coming your way. Thanks for tuning in.